Hey everybody, I'm Tommy and you are on the Love Boat. Hey, what have you guys been doing? Did you happen to catch Johnny Scoville? Good Lord, people, I tackled him right after the show. No, that was awesome, man. It was nice to see Johnny. This is how Johnny speaks when people aren't there. And I don't mean that but I mean, Johnny has a political leaning, Johnny has opinions and he doesn't share them ever, which is kind of an unusual thing. I tend to do more of that. It was cool to see that today. Once again, today I want to send out prayers to anyone who suffers in crisis from addiction. I love that. Hey, good to see you, Sandy Wade, Kristen Melinda. How are you? NV, are we twins? We are not. We get that a lot, though. Arabian Bard, good to see you. Brock Bandy, what's happening? Hey, Josh, round two. Kind of, maybe a little different. Jane Aldrich, I'm all in. Hello, how are you? It was a heck of a show. It was. He killed it, didn't he? NV, I'm happy you're here. Really am. Denisha, Tired Buffalo, good to see you. Love it. Really do. I love it. Archie's mom, what's happening? I feel like I saw you recently. There's Tommy Bird. What's happening? All right, so let's talk about this. I may have a slightly different take. There are people wearing T-shirts and people making content. There's a lot of people with a battle cry that is, I am Jimmy Kimmel. Personally, I am not. And this is on the heels, of course. This is an answering to the people that were doing the hashtag. It was the most popular hashtag in the United States of America, which was hashtag I am Charlie Kirk. We're talking very often, as we went into this in the echo chamber stuff. We've been talking about this for days, but we're talking about the wide end of both. Come on. Nah, but it's that kind of, you know what? There's a lot of people. Everybody's lit up. Hopefully we get through this, folks. I am in a developing country. The lunatic fringe sees the hashtag I am Charlie Kirk, and their response is to put up a talk show host and kind of elevate that to the same status. Now, whether or not you think that's cool or not, I get it. But there's a lot of people that are really crying about this being a free speech or a First Amendment right. We've gone over this before, but I think we need to go over it again because this is kind of darn sad, if you ask me, that we didn't do this in civics or whatever. Free speech doesn't give you the right to say anything you want, anywhere you want. I mean, you can, right? But you're not guaranteed that bad things won't happen. Tonight, when this show is over, you can walk up to your wife and you can call her a string of really nasty 4-letter words and tell her, that she probably needs to lose weight or something offensive. You can do that. It's going to cause a problem, right? If you do something at work, you have the right to be fired, but don't get it messed up. That's not what happened. I'm sorry, it's not. And if you buy into that, then you're allowing them to send a narrative to you that the White House has the power to fire people in jobs like this. And you know what? Here's the deal. And this takes, by the way, about 15 minutes of research, right? This didn't take me all day to go deep diving. I don't use AI. So I'm doing it, the old fashioned way, so to speak, just using a computer. But you can look up what the ratings on these guys were. And I say these guys because Colbert is the same jackass, just on a different set. He really is. They have slightly different, but this is what has been happening from the time you get up in the morning and The View kicks on at ABC, you get The View, and from there to the end of the day, there is a narrative that echoes the news, which doesn't work if you're getting the government to give you a communication license, like the American Broadcasting Corporation or the National Broadcasting Corporation or CBS, right? These people have the government, our tax dollars, giving them the right to do what they do, but you're not allowed to put out misinformation, right? And what that man said was misinformation. And they say, yeah, you know what, though? He spoke his mind and he lost his job for that. They were looking for a reason at ABC to get rid of this dude for a really long time. Make this make sense to me. You are a very intelligent audience, right? We've been together a long time. Make this make sense to me. If you run a business and the business has stockholders, how do you justify somebody on your workforce who is doing 1 million people who are seeing his show on a daily basis in a country of $330 million? How is this the biggest name in late night TV with 1 million views a night on a good night, right? Forged in Fire is beating this guy. Anything that you put up against him beats this guy. So why does he still have a job prior to saying stupid things about the death and the assassination of somebody? Right? Putting it back on the party that lost somebody that, and this may come as a shock to a lot of you, but Charlie Kirk was probably going to run for president. I don't think it would have been soon because he was a very young man. But he started Turning Point USA at 18. And I promise you, going to every college campus, as much as it was trying to get people to talk about some issues that were important, like college degrees don't really land people fantastic jobs anymore, man, right? It doesn't. Envy says Forge and Fire is a fire show, man. Well, I'll tell you something. When they put the Daniels woman, what was her name? The porn star? Help me out. Stormy. How could I miss that? I've got her entire catalog in my room. I'm kidding, I don't. But the Stormy Daniels incident, when they had her on CNN, when they had her on CNN to talk about the length of the president's junk and all kinds of other fun stuff, Forged and Fire beat him that night. It's a little known fact, but it is the truth. He would have been an amazing president. I think he was going around the country hitting college campuses because those people would be voting in about 10 years. I think a lot of people, especially in the conservative movement, thought that Charlie Kirk would eventually be president. So they didn't kill a president, but they killed someone that absolutely had a very solid career in politics. This was a guy that could debate. Now, by way of full disclosure, debating people who are in college is a really easy thing to do because they are indoctrinated. They're not learning both sides of the coin. That used to happen, and then you would make a decision. There was an old quote, and I'm not trying to offend anybody here, but there's a very old quote from Winston Churchill that said, "Show me anybody in their 20s that isn't a liberal, right? And I'll show you somebody without a heart or a soul. Show me somebody in their 50s that's not a conservative, and I'll show you somebody without a brain." I'm not trying to bag on anybody, but this is a thought that has been put out a lot. And one of the reasons is when you're young, when you're in your 20s, you're 25, you think, you know what, we should provide for everybody on the planet. And if that person's over there and they're hurting somebody or they're committing crime, they shouldn't be in prison because we should just be helping these people and lifting them up. And we should be doing everything we can to make the world a better place. And that's awesome. And then as you start to get older, you realize that there are some logistical problems to that.
It's like a first-year lawyer.
20
years later, there's a bottle of bourbon in his head.
Correct. Right? Cops are the same way. You know, after you've spent a little bit of time in the real world and you've been evicted from a house or two, and you find out that your education isn't going to get you anything, right? There's a lot of frightening things that start to happen as you get older. And all of a sudden you start looking at things. I thought my dad was an idiot, right? As you're growing up, you think to yourself, man, when you hear me talk about my dad, you probably hear me talk with reverence that he's one of the smartest men I've ever met. A lot of that I didn't see until I was in my 30s. You know, because we weren't on the same page in a lot of things. I was a very, very liberal person when I was younger. I was. And then I landed in prison. And prison changed me politically. So I'll tell you how it happened for me. Once again, I had tons of time on my hand. And I read an awful lot of books. I read books by economists. I read books on theories of government. And the truth of the matter is they all suck, including democracy. None of them work. Not one government works. It doesn't, and they're never going to. But at least in democracy, you do have the right to free speech. All of these people that are crying that free speech is over, you watch what's going to happen. These are the same people that have been telling me since 1987 that we weren't going to be able to get condoms or birth control if the Republicans get in office, right? And I believed it. When I was a kid, I believed it. Birth control is going to be done. You know, load up on the pill, load up on these things. I've been hearing that since I was 17. But now I got to hear the Gen Xers screaming at the top of their lungs, right? We're going to lose birth control. Yeah, that one's been around a long time. And when they get into office, they're going to cut Social Security. There's never been an election in my life where they didn't promise that whatever party got in was going to cut Social Security because they're trying to bring in the votes for older folks. And a lot of people don't watch the news anymore because we have become accustomed to not having to. They're going to take the time to put it into really small packets that aren't going to bore us. We're going to jump from one. Hello. That's nice. Sean, good to see you. Cheers. We jump from one subject to another as fast as possible, right? They keep us entertained. There's a chyron going at the bottom. So if the one he's talking about is boring, you can read what's coming next. We've become a society that listens to sound bites, which is why somebody sends my brother an email and says, Charlie Kirk said that trans people don't have a right to live. I assure you he didn't. I assure you that was never said, right? Here's the thing. Pay attention. This might make sense. I don't care who you want to sleep with, and I don't think there should be a law anywhere on the books, anywhere that says you can't have a consensual relationship with this individual or that individual or anybody. And Charlie Kirk thought the exact same thing. There should never be a law that governs any of that. Now, If two people want to get married, maybe we give it a different name. Maybe we come up with a different kind of union. Give them all the same rights, whatever. But here's the thing. Marriage is kind of a holy institution in a lot of people's faiths. And it's also the world's biggest slippery slope. You'll be having people marrying dolphins, right? Because once you say marriage is not just between a man and a woman, then it's not between anything. I'm sorry. That's a belief. You can hate me for it. But you watch, I'm right. There are already people marrying or trying to marry AI bots. I want to marry this AI bot because all it does is tell me back what the hell I am. And I love me, right? It's never going to argue with me. It's always going to tell me I'm right. And if I go, that person's an idiot, it's going to go, Tommy, you're right. That person is an idiot. They should never have said anything. This is why if you say to AI, I'm thinking of committing suicide, it will go, yeah, probably not a bad idea. How are you planning on taking yourself out? I'm not making light of this, but this has already happened. We have multiple lawsuits right now open against AI. We're in a crap storm all over the world. And the scariest part of all of this is the deeper we get into this crap storm, the less we talk to one another. So I'm going to marry my yarn. There you go. From what I understand, you got a good sized stash. Probably not a bad call, Denisha. Honestly, probably not a bad call. So back to Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel was going to lose that job. It was just a matter of time. And this may come as a shock to you, but there has been a temperature change since Trump was elected to office the second time. And the temperature change kind of is because of this. Pay attention, right? Pay attention. The first time Trump was in office, he did not get an opportunity to be president because Hillary Clinton, this isn't up for debate either. I promise you, this is all very, very provable, very researchable, and it doesn't take a hell of a lot of effort. But Hillary Clinton standing in the Javits Center with two people that were supposed to be writing a book for her standing right nearby heard her say, we didn't lose this. We're going to blame this on Russian interference. And I said the entire time, you guys have heard this 500 times, every single phone call, every single text message, every single email anybody in the United States of America is making in or out is recorded. Not looked at, they say, but it's recorded. They have it in holding it for posterity. Kevin Hawthorne, Lakeland, Florida. Good to see you, brother. They're holding it for posterity. And if something goes wrong, they're just going to go in there and then look that stuff up and go, oh, yeah, look what Tommy did. They can go back years. But you don't think they were listening to Trump and recording that stuff? Are we all that dumb? So, but they pushed it and they pushed it and they pushed it. It's not what was happening. What was really happening is the Obama administration knew that Hillary Clinton had crap loads of emails that were on a server in her house. Big deal, right? I mean, and so she screwed with national security. No, it's what was on those servers. What was on those servers was proving that of about 84 people that she saw when she was Secretary of State, about 60 of them donated massive amounts of money to the Clinton Global Initiative, right? Or Global Alliance or whatever the hell they called it. Which was, by the way, set up with the Clintons by who? Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not making this up, right? How do we know this? Because his right-hand woman had to go and testify in front of the Department of Justice. And the first thing she said was, why am I in prison in the first place? Because the Obama administration made a deal with me that I couldn't be prosecuted for anything that Epstein did, and neither could any of my co-defendants. You want to tell me how that deal gets made? You're a sex offender that has been selling children, you and your partner, but you cannot be prosecuted. I did a show on this where I talked about what was happening in Florida. I said you can go and look at at how that case went down. Jeffrey Epstein got to do weekends. He got his own cell. It looked like a Hilton. He wasn't in a jail. It was all a complete farce. But the feds said, we're not going to pick this up. We're not going to go after your properties. You molest girls in a Palm Springs? No, Palm Beach apartment or a Palm Beach mansion, because there were two places, and neither of those are going to get taken by the feds. Does that make any sense to any of you? Well, the feds didn't prosecute. And when they told the people down there in the district that they weren't going to prosecute, there's only two people that can make that phone call. Maybe this doesn't make sense to the rest of the world, but I promise you this is the truth. If you're the top of the food chain, you're running the Southern District of New York, and someone says to you, hey, you need to back off, that's going to be the Attorney General of the United States or the President. And then nobody else has that authority. So either Obama or one of his hench ladies made a phone call to say, let Jeffrey Epstein go. What was on those servers was about bilking the government. It was about pay per per play. You couldn't see Hillary Clinton. You weren't going to get into the office of the Secretary of the State for the United States of America if you didn't get Bill Clinton to make a speech at your campus or your whatever for 10 million or 4 million. There were colleges that donated money and he never won. No, you can't find anything they did. It was just take it, right? Take it. Allegedly, he was supposed to make speeches. Guy doesn't show up for half of them because it's not real. It's a money laundering system for the Clintons. And once Obama was onto it, I don't know if he was in on it, but he sure as hell tried to hide it. His name appeared in those emails. And I've known this for a hot minute. I'm just not going to not talk about anything anymore. See, there were lines I used to not step over. These are truths. By the way, I'm not a Republican. How do you like that? I'm not. Haven't been in a really long time because the Republican Party is screwed. Doesn't mean I didn't vote for a Republican this last time. I voted for Trump. I'm not at all happy with Trump right now. I'm not. But the other option would have been, what's that?
Epstein came and went from that jail like Otis, the drunk on Andy Griffin.
You know what? That is an awesome comment because it's the truth. And here's the thing, folks. We need to use our brain pans instead of listening to sound bites. Trump's all over those, the Epstein files. That's why they're not releasing them. So he was promising that he was going to release them, knowing he was in them, right? Knowing he was going to have to then get there and pull the brake and go, no, I'm not doing it. He's screwing us over by not releasing these, but it's not because he's in them. That's not what's happening. And the proof is this. That hot potato has been sitting with our government since eons ago, right? The Dems had this so long. If there was anything in there, if they had proof he popped a pimple at Epstein's house, much less had sex with a kid, you think they would have not released that? They were releasing stuff that was completely made up about the guy. A prostitute took a leak on him in a bed because the former president had slept in that bed. That was one of the dumbest things anyone had ever made up. But they believe it. And the sad thing is this. Do you know how many people saw that soundbite and then never saw anything else? And if you ask them, what do you know about Trump? Well, I know a hooker took a leak on him in some other country just because Obama had slept in that bed, that racist pig. And then 2 weeks later, printed this big at the bottom of the 75th page, they go, all that stuff was just BS. And they did that through the guy's entire candidacy. Whether you like him or not, I don't care. But that's the stone cold truth. And if you don't like him, evaluate why you don't. I can tell you why I don't like him. But if you say I don't like him because he's racist, he's not. I promise you he's not. I don't think what he's doing right now is good. I'm really tripped out by the guy in a lot of different ways right now. But I am of the firm belief that if we're going to fix anything, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. If people get together and they start telling you, seriously, if you said to every person you know, listen, when the election comes up this year, don't vote for anybody that's ever been in office. No incumbents. What a simple policy. No incumbents. You've been in office before, you got to go. You got to go. You can't be trusted. You got to go. And when the new crew gets in, everybody that runs has to run on one thing. They're going to go in and say, we're going to get rid of lobbyists. And we're not going to have a budget where we spend $6 million a minute that we don't have. $37 trillion, folks. There is a mathematical equation when the debt spiral becomes the debt spiral. And then there's no coming back from it. The society will blow up. They will be selling our military hardware at auction, or we're going to go to war. And we're going to go to war unable to pay our people to build the stuff that we need to do this. Because the dollar will be worth nothing. I'm sorry, folks, but this is what's coming. We are in a cycle right now where America's printing more money than it can get its hands on, right? Printing it, making it out of thin air. There's nothing backing it, right? It's called a fiat currency. Currency is either backed by something or they can continue to print it for eternity. People buy Bitcoin because they ain't any more of them left. There's 21 million Bitcoin. There's never going to be 22. It doesn't even exist. It's something that hangs out in the ether, and people have more faith in that than they have in the dollar. Scary times. So how do you keep people, right, from freaking out? Well, you keep asses on the air who don't make a bit of sense, but will push an agenda to divide. Because if you talk to people logically, every one of them is going to go, hey, wait a second, $37 trillion? That's dollar bills stacked from here to the sun and back. I'm not making that up. Or maybe it's the moon, but it's a terrifying amount of money. Like my brain can't put together $1 trillion, right? $1 million I get. $1 trillion I struggle with. But to make it simple, right? if you had $1 million bill, right? You'd need 1 million of them. That's terrifying. And we're 37 trillion in debt, and we're just doing this. So you spoon feed the masses with morons. I'm sorry. The Jimmy Kimmel audience, I'm not disrespecting you. I'm just telling you the truth.
I'll do that.
How do you show up and listen to that drivel? It's not comedy, right? I had to go and deep dive this fool today because I haven't watched that show, ever. But I watched probably 6 episodes of him. I got to do it on double speed. He's really hard to watch any other way. But yeah, Jimmy Kimmel pretty much called for the elimination. I actually did cover that one of anyone that decided not to take the vaccine. Well, he sounds like a solid cat. I remember him on the Man Show doing things that today would get you canceled. In fact, he would cancel people for the things that he did on the Man Show, which he thought was funny. Hey, Will, thank you, my brother. Good to see you, man. He is a lowlife of epic proportion. Just picture this, right? I've been slammed for a lot of things in my time. Imagine Johnny filming me out on the Malecone tomorrow on the boardwalk and me walking up to a woman's backside at this distance and sniffing it, right? Without her knowing while Johnny films it. Because that was pretty popular on the Man Show. Go out and try to find that. And it's gone. You got any idea how hard it is to get something gone? You got any idea how hard it is to get something off the internet? He also did a thing in blackface. And by the way, so have I. We grew up in a time where that was done. Teachers in my high school did it. Is it bad form? Yeah, it probably is, right? Slavery was bad form. But we think about things from a 2025 perspective, and it's one of the worst things you can do on earth, honestly, because we're so freaking evolved, right? We have a right to look back at people who were doing things wrong in the past. And then you start coming up with these concepts of maybe we should just give money to everybody we've ever hurt. It's a bizarre concept, reparations, things of that nature. But make no mistake, Jimmy Kimmel is there, not because he's making money for anyone. They're getting their ass kicked. And Colbert was even worse. Colbert, I misquoted this yesterday. It wasn't Kimmel, it was Colbert. But Colbert had a $15 million group of writers. They made $15 million a year for the writers on that show. Good God, man. And and he's just, and he used to be funny. Honestly, I watched Colbert for years. And then Colbert became one of them. I'm sorry. Howard Stern became one of them. How many times have you seen someone and you're like, oh man, he used to be so cool. And then he went to a Diddy party. I'm not being funny. If you don't think funky stuff happens with every one of these freaks before they end up becoming, how does Jimmy Kimmel's overweight? He's not funny. He's a chunky little punk. For real. He's a scared little guy. How the hell does this dude come out of nowhere? It's like everything else, dude. I'm telling you. Those guys go to Hollywood and they get compromised stuff on them. And then you got to go out and do jokes, or you got to go out and push a narrative. It was just indoctrination. Think of what we watched when we were growing up. We had a great conversation about this the other day. You couldn't tell me who Johnny Carson voted for. No one had any idea. And Letterman either, until Letterman changed and started getting completely political. How about Stephen King? You know how many Stephen King books I read? I would not read another Stephen King book for $100 bill. I probably sound passionate about the things that I talk about, right? I do. I'm very passionate about the things that I talk about. I'm not going to kill anybody over it. I'm not. But make no mistake, it's an easy thing for your Facebook courage to get your real life, chin smacked. And welcome to the world. I told everybody I was going to talk about free speech. Let's talk about free speech, right? You can walk up to me and say, you know what? I'm glad your dad's dead. They said that to us a lot the day he died.
Still good.
They do it at a distance. I promise you. They can exercise that free speech over there. Exercise that in my presence, and I'm going to break your face. I'm going to do things to you that you're going to remember for a really long time. You can exercise free speech. There's always a repercussion to exercising free speech. I watched my brother's numbers on his channel drop by about 60 today. Johnny's speaking up. I've been doing it for a hot minute. It gets to a point where you feel like you got ash in your mouth when you listen to people say things and you go, oh my God, really? If you could have heard the speech that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez made about Charlie Kirk's shooting, That woman is a rocket scientist. You realize that, right? She's on the floor of Congress. This is the House, rather. This is a woman that should not even have a driver's license. I'm sorry. She's probably a lovely woman. She shouldn't be in politics. She made a speech there and she said, Charlie Kirk hated the fact that what is the bill called that freed, good Lord, the Civil Rights Act.
Right.
Sorry, folks, that's the old age thing. He said that Charlie Kirk was angry that the Civil Rights Act was passed, which is absolute fiction, right? Absolute fiction. It's not something the guy ever said. He said the way that it was administered got out of control. And he's not talking about what it did for blacks. But then she said, and that gave the rights for blacks to vote. I assure you it didn't, AOC. Maybe, I don't know, take a civics course. Actually, that was a amendment to the Constitution. And I may screw this up. Somebody can correct me, but at least I know it's an amendment. I think it's the 13th. But you can check me on that. This is a woman who said, they had to change the laws to make sure that they didn't get another term out of Roosevelt, and he died in office. This is a person that never spent any time doing anything. Do you know that they auditioned that woman for that position? Do you think that's right? Do you think that's something that should be able to happen? They picked the bartender. It could have ended up being anybody else because they were looking through a lot of people, and then they were going to throw some money behind her and turn her into so she's a puppet. What do you do to get that gig? Like when they say, well, we put you here, you're not going to go, yeah, well, I'm not doing this because no, you are going to do this. What's it worth to buy a politician? Because she's bought, right? Somebody shows up and says, we're going to put up all the money. We're going to get people to go out and knock on doors and do all that. You think they're doing that to be kind? They're doing that because they want someone else to get yelled at when they get their stuff pushed through. Our government has gotten so wild and out of control. And this stuff that you see on the big television, right? That's the propaganda that keeps all of us hating each other. If people turned off the Jimmy Kimmel show, if people turned off all of the stuff that instead of making you laugh, which is how they get you in, right? You're going to come in here and some funny stuff, providing that funny stuff makes half of the people feel bad. Can't say faggot, right? Can't say that. But you can take an audience and offend half of them with the entire program and call yourself virtuous. You know what? Don't take my words. Don't tell me how I'm going to talk. I don't use that word that way. And I would never say it in front of somebody whose sexual preference was different than mine.
He calls me that.
But I call my friends that, and I have been doing it since 1984. How are you going to show up in my life in 2000 and tell me I got to change how I talk? Huh? I'm a caveman because I use that word. It's a bundle of sticks, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. Huh? A little tight bundle of sticks. Cigarette was a fag. People said it all the time. Can't say that anymore.
2 streets over from Stone.
My daughter, who's a Gen Xer, calls me fag like all the time. Every time I talk to her, I'm like, I can't say that back. If I say that back, there's something wrong with me, right? And I will get hate for this. They're gonna tell me I'm a homophobe. I'm not afraid of anybody, right? Phobia is a fear, right? I'm not afraid of anybody. I'm not afraid of anything. I would like to have an open dialogue with anybody. I don't care if a person wants to wear a dress and have male parts. I don't want late night television telling me I'm an ass because I prefer women, or because I think that maybe we ought to separate people that have penises in locker rooms from people that don't have penises, right? How radical a concept is this? It seems insane to me. Honest to God, it seems insane. And the fact that we're pumping chemicals into underage kids, am I a bad guy to say I think that that's dangerous? Honestly. Once this caught on, we were like, yeah, let's just give them some estrogen. Let's just give them some. We don't know what this is going to do, right? These are our children. Maybe figure it out on some animals or something. I mean, I don't even want to see that happen. But for the love of God, this is an experiment with the next generation. Holy hell. So what do I think happened with Kimmel? Kimmel lost his job because he had the worst numbers in late night television. You got 1 million people to watch him a night. That's not going to keep you in the game, especially when you have an unbelievably overinflated budget and you are hated pretty much universally by half the country. That's not what anybody in broadcasting wants at their company. ABC didn't want him. They didn't. They wanted him gone. They could have gone to bat for him. They could have so easily gone to bat for him. If that had been Carson, or if that had been Leno, or if that had been Letterman in the early days, or any of that. Here's what happened. Basic free economy. Everybody says, This is a matter of free speech. It's cancel culture. No, it's not. It's a free market economy. Let me tell you why Jimmy Kimmel got fired. Real easy. This is what happened. I'm at home watching stuff. Now, I live in a different part of the world, but people in home all over the United States of America called their cable companies. You don't, right? You're not going to get ABC. So you call your cable company, Comcast, whoever you got, and say, I want this dude gone. I don't want this dude on the air anymore. And there were so many calls for this that 2 very large cable providers said, we're not running Kimmel tomorrow night. Now, if you're ABC, you're going to go, yeah, well, F you. We'll just, we'll not do it to 15 million households. The first group to poll went out to 15 million households, which doesn't sound like a lot in 330 million. But if those households are anywhere near New York or LA, because those are the only 2 places where this cat's popular, and I'm not making that up, the rest of America thinks he's an idiot. Sorry, right? We haven't been able to speak up. We haven't been able to say these things, right? When people talk about him, I grit my teeth and I go, yeah, it is what it is. Or I say, have you ever seen him sniff a girl's ass while people are filming it? Because that's a big thing for him. He thought that was really funny. But he's got the huevos to come out and speak to us like he's some kind of ideal, right? He's going to show you what it is to be a guy, right? And cry about how when they canceled the insurance, his kid is going to end up dead. Man, miss me with that crap. Are we dumb enough to buy that? You got a $25 million a year contract and we got to figure out what's going on? I don't know what he's making. I'm making that up. Guy's not hurting, folks. I don't think you need to, did you see? He's got a job at Walmart. Put it up there on the, those shows cost way too much in today's current world. They're a waste of time because the way a show makes money is they sell advertising and they sell it to Mercedes-Benz if the target market happens to be an old enough demographic to buy that. But what do you sell to nobody that's in the middle? If you're watching Jimmy Kimmel, all of your political views and your ideation and all of it is kind of narrow and focused. When Carson went on, you could advertise to everybody in America because the cross-section of people that watched him, the dividing of America, you better be on the half that's more popular. Why did Rush Limbaugh stay on the radio as long as he did? Huh? Does that make sense to anybody? Why don't you guys point out a left-wing guy? Okay, so they get rid of the late night talk show. What will replace it? I think, personally, believe it or not, there's a lot of people screaming for Ricky Gervais.
Amen.
There's a lot of people that want to see Ricky Gervais get that spot. And one of the reasons I think that might get traction is not just because people are asking, but this is a guy that says, no, I don't care what side you're on, I'm going to insult you. And that's what comedy used to be. If you're gay, they're going to make some gay jokes at you. If you're black, you might get a couple of black jokes. The Italians, they'd get beat on. You remember the old Eddie Murphy stuff? You can't play that today. It's considered racist as hell. We used to laugh at ourselves, right? We did. Now, I don't mean we used to laugh at other people. Now we do that. We pretend we don't. We virtue signal to beat crap, but we laugh at other people who get shot in the head, but we can't laugh at ourselves. You make an Italian joke, I got to get offended and write my congressman. I'm Italian. You know what IROC stands for? Nice. Well played. Wasn't sure if you knew that one. Look, Larry King never returned. Yeah, Tucker Carlson could lose his job and then go out and start a podcast and make a mint. Megyn Kelly could lose her job, go out and start a podcast and make a mint. Do you know why? Because they are way more in the middle, even for the people that don't like people that lean right. They're not the lunatic fringe. They're kind of more to the middle. After he went and said the stupid crap that he said about Charlie Kirk, he doubled down the next day. And he was planning on coming out the following day, today, and say, yeah, it's still MAGA. And his response was, things that I have said have been taken out of context. They're trying to frame my things wrong. If I say, hey, you're an ass, that's what I said. There's no context. Stop with that. Your own truth, my truth, context. You said they're trying to pretend this guy isn't MAGA. And I'll say it again because everywhere I see it, they dance around this because you can't say these things. But his girlfriend had a penis. That doesn't align with the MAGA platform. I promise you. They're all afraid to say, well, we're not quite sure where this person stands. He was dating somebody trans, right? I'm not being disrespectful, right? I'm linking the dots. I don't need to wait for the FBI to tell me the entire story. This guy wrote things on the bullets. This guy was in chat rooms that were basically trans chat rooms where allegedly they were talking about this thing before it happened. So we're going to see a lot more come out of this. And what scares me, this may come as a shock to you, right? Auckland, New Zealand, good to see you. I don't want to see people rounded up. I don't want to see free speech get taken away. I don't. And here's the thing. I'm not trying to stop somebody from saying, I'm glad that Charlie Kirk got shot. In the First Amendment, you have a right to be a loser. If you want to say, I'm happy as hell that this guy got shot. If you want to be that first guy that you see on that X when they do the montage of all the terrible things that people said, the guy that went, now his kids have no father, ha, 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 with a bunch of laughing emojis. You can be that loser. There's no law against it. But don't cry when your job gets a hold of it. Don't cry when you get fired and go on and pull your hair out on TikTok. I can't believe I got fired. Free speech is dead. No, you said what you said. If free speech was dead, you'd be in handcuffs on your way to jail.
Amen.
Free speech, the right to free speech does not give you the right to have no repercussions from your free speech. You want to use the hard R N word as a white person? You can say that. Like I said last night, people are going to assume certain things about you. Like your IQ is really low, like your dad was probably racist, and there's a bunch of stereotypes that go with it, including banging your relatives, right? Because they're not normally deep thinkers. Sorry, but white supremacists, I've known a lot of them, right? I did time. They're not normally burdened by deep thought. Is that a bad thing to say? No, they're the lunatic fringe. But on the other side are a bunch of people with some really colorful hair who are also just as nuts. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. And sadly, they were the party of free speech. When people used to say, are you a Republican or a Democrat? I used to say, socially, I'm a Democrat. Fiscally, I'm a Republican. And that's what I used to say all the time. I didn't change. I promise you I didn't. I have the same beliefs. That party changed. And Bill Maher said it, for God's sakes, right? I'm not a huge follower of Bill Maher. However, look, I don't have to agree with somebody to say they got a great brain pan. I don't know if you ever heard Bill Maher speak. And I don't mean when he's got a script and he's on his show, but if he's brought somewhere else and it's kind of extemporaneous and they've got to start firing questions at him that he doesn't know is coming, he's ridiculously quick on his feet. And if somebody tries to paint him into a corner by using, debate isn't debate. Now it's this thing where everybody's trying to score points. And I've watched him just say to people, are we trying to have a conversation or you want to hit me? Right? Let's have an open dialogue. By the way, I got probably 6 emails today from people that were not very nice. I'm shocked it was only 6.
I have a lot too.
Well, Johnny's going to get 40 by the morning, the friggin' lunatic. Proud of him. You know what it was? I was catching up in the number of people I was losing, and Johnny's like, hold my beer. No, it's a reference, people.
Omar's worse.
Ilhan Omar. Oh, well, look, you know what? Look, here's the thing. You're being prejudiced simply because this woman married her brother to get here. I'm sorry. I could go off on Ilhan Omar forever. This woman literally married a brother to get here. Do the research on this. I'm not making it up.
She's a construct.
And she's another one of the constructs. But this is a part of the country that there are pockets in the United States of America that are very, very Muslim. And if you happen to run a Muslim candidate there, you have a decent shot, and Michigan has picked up an awful lot of people of that faith. By the way, I don't hate any Muslims. I have tons of Muslim friends. It's a big thing in prison, a lot of Muslims. Most of the cabinet is not qualified for the job. Patel is the worst, with Pam Bondi being the second worst. Here's the thing. I didn't dislike Kash Patel. I didn't. I had really high hopes for Kash Patel. And I'm not sure where I come down on it yet. So let me take a pass on my opinion on this. As of right now, I'm really, really bummed out at how the Jeffrey Epstein thing has been handled by all parties. Sadly, Bongino, all of them. You got to be enough of a soldier to say, I'm quitting if this is wrong, right? I'm quitting if this is wrong. If you're going to do something that goes so far off of what you told me, then I'm going to quit. And the way that the Epstein thing has been handled, I'd have quit. I promise you I would have. I would have walked out the door. So while I think that his service up until the time that he became director of the FBI, I had high hopes. Why are there so many Muslims in prison? Well, here's the deal with that.
Break the law.
Yeah. Now so there was a big push back in the day for the black Muslims inside prison became a very, very big very big group, and they're usually really good dudes. Honest to God, they're usually very peaceful. By the time they come in and actually start to read the Quran and get into it, there's not a lot of violence. So there was not a lot of pushback from the prison people, because if they're not raising hell, right, that's a good thing, you know. But what happened is a lot of people of different colors will come in with paperwork that will get them killed, right? Like you got really bad paperwork, you touched a child, or you beat up a woman, or you did something that's the fellas are not going to appreciate, and the people in your car just might kill you. So guys will come in the door and immediately join that car, and the reason is they happen to believe that anything that you did prior to becoming a brother of theirs, prior to joining their faith, they don't hold you accountable for anything. So if your paperwork is messed up, it has kind of become a place where some people go to hide. And I mean, you got to respect people that are willing to forgive people for everything. I think that that's lovely. I tell you what, I read the Quran. I read it from cover to cover, and it read almost exactly like the Bible to me. There was a lot of stuff that was written in there that is very, very similar. Do unto others how you want people to do unto you. Treat children a specific way. All of those things are covered. Then you get to the last book of the Quran, and I swear to you, it feels like it was written by somebody else. And that's when they start talking about killing infidels and bringing the war, so to speak, to the people that don't believe. But honestly, I mean, call me a cynic. If you read the entire thing, and I have, it doesn't even sound like the same voice to me. So you can judge me for that. As long as people are hating me, we can put that on my tab, right? You know what else is funny, though? You can talk about Christianity all day long. Go and look at it. People go crazy, freaking Christians. Everywhere you go, there are people beating on Christianity. You don't hear them beating on Muslims. Do you know why? Because Christians will pray for you if you beat on them. Muslims will behead you. I'm not playing. Do you remember what happened in Benghazi? You remember that peaceful protest that broke out and people had RPGs? I know exactly what happened that day. One of these days, I'm going to do a show on that. I was in prison with a guy who got a ridiculously long sentence for doing nothing. I mean, really, even by the way you look at it, right? You look at it, and he was on a financial crime. He was a guy that got caught basically for violating the Act of 1933, which usually means insider trading, but there's about 9 other laws that are on there. And they got him for basically a fraud thing and put him in prison for a really long time. He wasn't a fraud, but he knew exactly what happened on that day. I call our jail the Hibernation Hotel. I live in New York, and the homeless will commit a crime to get off the street and get warm in jail. At least they get 3 meals a day. That's almost everywhere. Honest to God, that is an epidemic. I've told this story many times before, but I was having health issues and had to be transported from the prison that I was in to a hospital just for a day. I had to get some imaging done and some stuff, and so you get shackled up and you go in a van and you get shipped out. While I was coming back in, the place you come in is called R&R, or which is receiving and release, or R&D. They have different names, but it's where you come into the prison and it's where you go home from the prison. And there's a bunch of paperwork and desks and cells to hold you until you leave, or if you're just coming in. And as I'm coming in, there's a guy that's supposed to be coming out, and there are 3 cops trying to get this guy out of the holding cell. I mean, I'm not kidding you. Like holding on to the wall. This dude did not want to leave prison. And it's horrifying, right, that there are people that would rather be inside. It absolutely is. I researched every religion before I decided which one spoke to me. And if ever, I get rowdy here. And I feel sometimes like maybe that isn't the place. You can reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to talk to you about all of that stuff. Gotten bailed. Yeah. Got bailed out and was pissed. Yeah. I mean, it's terrifying because this dude had been in 22 years and they were getting ready to kick him out. And, he came in at like 18, right? So 22 years later, you're getting out at 40 going, I don't even know what a cell phone is. Right? I've never used a computer. I've never done any of this. He just wanted to stay inside. And I didn't even know the cat's name. He wasn't from my unit and he was from a different car. He's a black guy. So I didn't know the dude, but I would bet you my life he's in. You know, when they forced him out the door, I'm sure that he went and you cook for the jail. Oh, wow. Chef Bobby, that's a hard job, man. I did that in prison. How many meals are you making a day? Just out of curiosity. Because I used to do 1,400.
You do 45 a week, man.
Now we do 45 a week. And how fast do I do it? I bust out 45 sandwiches for the guys at the rehab.
Less than 45.
You have no idea how fast it is. You have no idea how fast it is. So if you just got here, Jimmy Kimmel didn't lose his job because of anything he said about Kirk. He didn't. If he hadn't been a jackwagon and had caved and become just absolutely one-sided, we have a country where 80 million people voted for one guy, right? And 80 million people voted for the other. So if you're only going to go after one side of that equation, you better be damn good at it. And he wasn't. So out of that 80 million, less than anywhere between a little less than 1 million and a little more than 1 million are what was watching him daily. That's not good enough, right? To be late night on ABC. The better question isn't why did Jimmy Kimmel got fired? That isn't the question. I promise you. The smart question is, why didn't he get fired years ago? Right. Same with Colbert. Why didn't they get fired years ago? Because it wasn't 1,000. Yeah, well, that's not that small, man. That's a lot of meals to cook, though. That's a lot of meals. Good for you. God bless you, man. Yeah, he lost his job because he sucked. By the way, that wasn't me. That was Monk. Monk's very rarely wrong. That's why his name gets sung when he gets here. Yeah, that and because I said something really stupid on a message machine once, so we've been joking about his name since then. Wes, good to see you. Both he and Colbert lost their jobs because they can't sell advertising to people unless people show up. And here's the crazy thing, folks. If you start thinking about CNN and their numbers or Kimmel and his numbers, he's on in every prison that I've ever been in, right? Because there's always a TV for people that are just that kind of fan, right? They're very, very extreme. And usually there's also a lunatic fringe one on the other side, right? But if it's on every prison across the country and half of the airports, how many people are really watching it? Nobody watched the guy, right? But now they're all running around with T-shirts that say, I am Jimmy Kimmel. I sure as you know what, am not Jimmy Kimmel. I am not. Come on. I'm not. Renee B, good to see you. I'd love to know if that meant ABC didn't have to pay out his contract. You know something? ABC will be happier than a pig in mud to pay out his contract and get someone in there that will get viewership. Look, say what you will for people. When ideology starts to take over free markets, then we're in deep trouble because nothing ever takes over free markets. Someone, call me a cynic, but somebody out there had to be sliding somebody something. Stockholders would have lost their mind. Why the hell is this guy still here? Right? Why is this guy still here? Well, we got some donors who want to keep him on the air. Why? Well, because it makes it look like the left is winning. Make this really clear, right? Really clear. If you were a political party and everybody that made movies voted your way and everybody that made TV shows voted your way, and I'm not making this up, look it up, right? Journalists, 7% of journalists identify as conservatives. 7%. So explain to me how Limbaugh is so successful. Explain to me why Fox News is so successful. Because the things that they talk about in conservatism, I'm not talking about right, left, I'm talking about conservatism versus liberalism. And I don't mean classical liberalism in the sense of the word of George Carlin, right? That liberal's dead. I'm talking about the trash they're pushing now, right? There's nobody that watches it. They don't find it entertaining. They don't even like their own stuff. But the last thing in the world you want to do is make it look like it's not working right. Do you know that when Rush Limbaugh was crushing it in the 90s, there was a bill passed in Congress to make sure that they had equal time on the radio for the same amount of time so that they could put someone in there who was on the liberal left so that there was a balance because they thought it was out of balance. And it was fantastic. Do you know who they put in? Baldwin. Oh, I remember that. It was the funniest thing. Nobody tuned in. Nobody tuned in. And it's not that there isn't half of the country that's left. They don't follow politics. You hear me? Savvy? They can give you sound bites that they saw on CNN, but you want to have a debate with them? We saw that. Charlie Kirk did that for years. They follow bullet points. Right? Usually they don't even memorize the bullet points. They get up and they go, yeah, the 1%. Do you remember Occupy Wall Street? Those people successfully took over all of Wall. They had thousands and thousands of people out there. They were talking about it all over the world. And the spokespeople couldn't come up with a sentence they would go up to him and go, so what are you guys doing here? Well, the 1%, controls like everything. And right. So what's the platform? What do you want to do to move this forward? How can we figure this out? Hey, Relatable Reese, good to see you. George Carlin would flip today. He'd be rolling over in his grave. He absolutely would be. It's, I'm not Jimmy Kimmel either. We have lost our way, folks. I'm sorry, but we've absolutely lost our way. The days of news people telling you the news, this is just, it's literally indoctrination. And then the people that help with the indoctrination, and I'm not talking about left, I'm talking about left and right. If you go on to Fox News, they're not much better. They just use different words. And if you're on the one side versus the other, well, you can call them commies, right? You can call them pinkos, right? Those commie pinko bastards. That's not a lot different than them calling the right fascists or Nazis. See, when you throw out one of those, the conversation stops. I can say to you, I can't stand Jimmy Kimmel's comedy. It doesn't make me laugh. I don't find the guy funny. If someone said, why don't you find him funny? We could have a debate. I could explain to you why I don't find it funny. And it's not because of my political leanings. I just don't find the guy funny. There were a lot of late night guys I didn't find funny. I'm kind of picky. Carlin used to knock me down. And I want to tell you something. Do you know what George Carlin and I had in common for real? We could laugh. He didn't believe there was a God, and he was vocal as hell about it, mean about it. Yeah. First time we ever listened to him, we listened to his sports stuff on a flight to Bermuda. And the only 3 people on the flight that had found his channel were me and my brother and my dad. And the entire plane was looking at us like, what the hell is wrong with us? Being Russian, I get called commie a lot. I hate communism. I don't blame you. I'm not a fan either. But I'm not going to call somebody that voted for Biden or for Harris or whoever, I'm not going to call that person a commie. It stops conversation. They're not a commie. They voted for somebody other than me. And the guy that voted for Trump isn't a Nazi. You guys know any Nazis? Seriously. Like the majority of people who hate me are actually, no joke, white supremacists. Do you guys know any Nazis? Man, don't call people that aren't Nazis Nazis. That's just such a shitty thing to say, man. Dave Chappelle doesn't care. You think we don't care? Go watch Dave Chappelle, man. Go watch Dave Chappelle. That man does not care. And I love Chappelle. But like Carlin, I had zero in common. The man he couldn't stand people that had faith. He was very vocal about it. It's all right. He was funny as hell. And he had a quick mind. We didn't agree on a lot. Political leanings were exactly the opposite of mine. But he was funny as hell. Carlin's still one of my favorite comedians. I think the guy's at the top of the food chain in terms of humor. Doesn't mean that we had anything in common. It didn't matter. What we had in common is that we could laugh at everything and everybody. Once one group comes off the table that you cannot laugh at, then every other group you do laugh at, right, has to take the next step. And you're going to get to a point where the only people you can have a conversation with are the people in the mirror. Right? You agree with me? Faggot? 100%. All right. Just seeing if Johnny was paying attention. Yahtzee! I don't have to see, right? Both, Carlin told Carlin spoke his mind. I saw Carlin in concert. I don't know if you noticed. I may have said this on the air before, but I saw George Carlin live once. And I saw Carlin right after he did the unspeakable, because Carlin used to go out on stage and he would go off about the sellouts and the people that took the contracts and the people that worked with Hollywood and all of those things. And he was really fantastic at ripping apart the people that were sellouts, right? Then Carlin does a deal for 1-800, whatever it was, phone. There was a phone deal where instead of long distance, for all you Gen Xers who are coming over just to leave hate and Nazi comments, we used to have to pay long distance bills, right? And you could dial an 800 number, and then you would have the ability to save money versus your long distance. And Carlin became their spokesperson. And he came out on stage, and people started to cheer. And he walked up to the mic, and he goes, "Yeah, I know what you're going to say." And he threw in a few F-bombs, and he's like, "So I sold out." And he goes, "But in my defense, I sold out for a lot of money." And everybody had a good laugh. Nobody was pissed. And everybody was thinking about it. So he just came out and admitted, "Yeah, I did it. Screw you. It was a lot of money." And then he got right into the comedy. We loved him. Things have changed. No one wanted to be labeled when I was growing up. Sadly, everyone now is labeled in one way or another. Yeah, I mean, for real. And it's not enough, right? It's not even enough. You can't be a white guy. It's got to be more than that, right? You have to throw in what your sexual identity is, because that has to be. I never had anybody in my entire life come up to me and say, hey, how you doing? I'm gay. It's just never happened, right? Now it is just your identity has to be your sexual preference. What if I did that all day? Hey, banging a lot of women, right? I'll only like women. Boy, big fan of chicks, legs, butts. No one does that. The things that we choose, you know why they do this? Because it keeps making the groups smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller so that we can all hate each other, so that they can divide us, because it's easier to market. It's easier to figure out who's going to vote. They don't want us getting along. If we get along, we're going to say stuff like, I'm sorry, 37 trillion. At what point do we explode, right? You guys got a plan for looting the the government so that you can take your money and run? Because at 37 trillion in debt, what are we going to do? Win the world lottery to pay this thing off? If we're going in deeper by $6 million a minute, how are we ever going to pay this off? If you ever watch the debt clock, it looks like a friggin' like the Wheel of Fortune slot machine in Vegas, where every single casino is putting into the same pot. You know those. You walk through the casino and you just see the numbers doing this one. Our debt's going way faster than that. It's not sustainable. The crazy thing is, it wasn't sustainable at 10 billion. Now we're at 37. Go back and watch the early days of the boat. Whenever I was ballsy enough to actually say something about something like the debt spiral, we were at 21. And I said, 21 trillion. How are we at 37? I mean, at what point do we go, whoa, it's over? Because it's coming. Hey, that's actually something that I wholeheartedly agree with. I see the majority of TV programming services as a mind control poison. Anybody familiar with a show called The View? Give me a deuce in the chat if you're familiar with a show called The View. This was a show back in the day that was started by Barbara Walters. Remember Barbara?
I do.
Barbara Walters. Barbara Walters, honestly, say what you will.
Boy, she was a beast.
She was one of the best interviewers that ever lived. That woman asked questions like you wanted to ask questions. Yeah, I think she had more game, man. Yeah. I really do. And she was a pioneer. She was interviewing presidents and heads of state before any woman was doing it. She was just a beast. And I loved Barbara Walters. I really did. The View was her vision. She started the program. And the idea was, if you got 5 strong, independent women who had completely different views and brought them together, you could listen to the views, right, of the different women. Instead, they got 5 women who are lunatic fringe left, right? Who literally come out and cheer. They're impeaching him, woo, waving their arms. Holy hell, how do you celebrate an impeachment? Do you think they were fired up about, look, I don't want to see a president go. I don't want to see a Democrat go. Honestly, how does that make us look on the world stage? Like we celebrate this? But they impeached that guy because he was working with the Russians. It's the dumbest piece of BS. I'm sorry. And it's not because I'm no MAGA dude. I promise you I'm not. I'm not.
That's a fact.
Yeah, it is. Look, you know what? I'm really big on harm reduction in life and in everything else. But in order to believe that, you have to have seen why you have to be into it, right? Because it starts out with the lowest rung on the drug ladder. And I believe that handing out needles, needle exchange programs are fantastic, right? It's how you make contact with somebody that you cannot make contact with. I am as liberal as you could possibly be on almost every subject matter on that side. Socially, I don't agree with anything that goes on the right. I just don't. I dislike everyone saying all liberals or all conservatives or all immigrants. No one says that. Honestly, I'm not trying to be a dick. But one of the first times I ever heard the term all immigrants was when the left media came out and said, Trump said all immigrants are rapists. You're not going to find that. It's not real, but they're totally cool pushing that out, right? Just like when he said there were good people on both sides of the equation, right? Telling them that those not, the next sentence was, obviously I don't mean white supremacists. That was the next sentence. You guys all know that, right? Or did you just hear the soundbite? You don't have to like the dude, but figure out why you don't like him, right? You're not going to hear me say all conservatives or all liberals, but I'll tell you something. The entire liberal party is in trouble, right? And sadly, as I said the other day, 20% of America thinks it's okay to silence somebody that you don't agree with violence. If you want to take a shot at where those people line up at, it's not hateful to tell you that that would be on that side. And unfortunately, I've been living my life too afraid to say the truth because I don't want to hurt the feelings of the people on the other side.
Wow.
Right? That's where I have been living. And I believe wholeheartedly that in some small percentage that I helped or that I did not help in the situation that happened with Charlie Kirk. People who keep their mouths shut because we don't want to offend anybody, right? The people that keep their mouths shut because they don't want to offend anybody makes it look like Charlie Kirk was the one guy in America that believed the things that he does. And that's not the truth. It isn't. Now, if you're judging Charlie Kirk or you're judging anybody else on what you heard on CNN, then go do some mother-loving research. Please do it. Stop taking anybody's word for anything. If you get your news from a news source, they have an agenda. They have no desire to bring the news to you. The news is who, what, when, where. They're going to come out and go, Trump screwed up this way, or the left screwed up this way, or these people, or those Christians, or those Muslims, as much as they can divide you. Gun control, abortion, hot button issues. They weren't hot button issues in the 70s. For real. They were still there, but you could go to dinner and have a conversation, right? You could have a conversation. The press, the reason they have a 7% approval rate is because they don't tell us the truth. They get busted for it constantly. One of my favorite examples of this, and most people never remember the young boy that was shot in Florida, Trayvon Martin. It's a tragedy, right? Look, I don't want anybody shot. That broke my heart, but it broke my heart a lot more because I was in prison. And I got newspapers. It was the only way. I was in the special management unit in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania when that happened. So no television. I could get radio and I could get newspapers, and those were my only options. And I looked at a picture of Trayvon Martin in the newspaper for 2 weeks. And the picture that I was looking at was his 5th grade class picture. And then I got a chance to call the woman I was married to at the time. And I said, I can't believe somebody would shoot this kid. And she goes, the kid? And I go, yeah. I said, I'm looking at him. I said, I saw him in the newspaper. He's a young kid. She goes, he's taller than you are. I'm 6'2". I weigh 220 pounds. But I wholeheartedly believed that the kid was in elementary school. And I had a very different opinion on what happened down there. Do you understand? Do you see the Jimmy Kimmel thing, whether you like him or not, as the government silencing critics? Debbie Zito, thank you for showing up. No, I don't at all. And here's why. You have the right to say anything you want in free speech. And your boss has the right to fire you. If you come to my jewelry store and I hire you and a guy comes in and goes, hey, I'd like to buy that Rolex. Yeah, that pieces of shit. You don't want those. Here, head over there. I can go over and go, you're fired. You can't talk like that at my business. You're gone. If a guy wants to take a kneeling at the halftime of his ball club to protest whatever it is he's protesting, and the owner of the ball club goes, yeah, you're fired. I don't like that. It's his club, right? You can say anything you want in free speech, but you have to deal with the repercussions of it. What he said was not factual, and he said it on the heels of an assassination. He didn't just say, he came out and said the people that did this are Charlie Kirk's fans, which was absolutely 100% false, right? This guy was so, but then people begin to believe it. So the companies like ABC, CBS, NBC, they have a charter from the United States of America in order to run that company. Now, the smaller cable companies, but the big three have a charter, which means our tax dollars actually help going to every one of those companies. They have a deal. And one of the deals is you cannot put out misinformation, right? So did he really believe that? Well, he didn't come out and apologize the next day, did he? And I've heard him say on January 24th of last year that they've got fact checkers all over the place. And if he ever makes a mistake, he'll come out and apologize for it. It was a 24th of January show last year. That's BS. But more importantly, he had the lowest ratings you've ever seen in your life. He had about 1 million people watching him, right? Now, the people who voted that direction, you would assume would be fans of his. That's 80 million people. Well, 1/80th are tuning in. They're really happy to get rid of him at ABC. This was like, oh God, thank God he's gone. Let's get rid of him, because they caught heat anytime they wanted to get rid of him. Because this is not about anything other than indoctrination and ideology. Because when a business begins to fail, you fire the person that isn't bringing in the money, like they're doing to Colbert. And oddly enough, Kimmel was even lower on the totem pole than Colbert was. They don't have anybody watching, literally. So how do you sell advertising if you only have 1 million people? Out of 1 million people, do you realize what the percentage has to be of people buying the product to make it worthwhile for the advertiser? So what you get instead is you get ideologues, companies that are so far leaning to one side that they're willing to throw money up for 1 million people to see so that they can say they're a sponsor of the show, but they know damn well it's not going to make them any money. There's no one actually seeing the ads. Hey, Mouse, good to see you. It has been a minute. Nice to see you. So no, this isn't a free speech issue in any way, shape, or form. And by the way, free speech means this, right? Or silencing critics either. You can say anything you want, but if what you say pisses off the entire country, you're going to lose your job. And he didn't get fired because the president of the United States got him fired.
What did the chief say was, words matter?
Words matter. What happened is this. 2 of the largest cable providers in the United States of America called ABC and said, we're not running Kimmel tomorrow night. Our fans do not like this. One of those companies was 15 million homes. So ABC goes, holy crap. You know what I mean? That's bad form. He's got to go. Thank God. Because they would love to get rid of the guy. They would very much like to have an ability to bring in some money. But this is where we get wild. This is where we get off the rails. When you're willing to lose money to put out somebody that doesn't sell, somebody that isn't popular, why did you not fire him 2 years ago is the question. And the reason is they have a vested interest in keeping us divided. Rush Limbaugh had nobody that competed with him for 30 years. I'm sorry, he didn't. He just kicked the crap out of the radio. Are you telling me that there's nobody out there that voted the other direction? No, they don't follow politics nearly as closely. And you can study this. I'm not making it up. It's a very easy thing to research. Conservatives listen to tons of conservative radio. They read tons of magazines and things. They get very into it. They study the concepts. This doesn't happen nearly as often with people on the left. If that happened, then there would have been a left-leaning Rush Limbaugh. It would have been an equal time thing. They even passed a law trying to make equal time. And they got, what's his name in there? Yeah. And Baldwin, Alec Baldwin was actually going to be the guy to go up against Trump. And it was the funniest. I was listening to one of the first shows, maybe the third one. And he goes, we're going to go to the phones right now and take some calls. About an hour in. And he goes, what? There's nobody waiting on the lines? Swear to you. My dad almost fell out of the truck. He was laughing so hard. Yeah, it was an abject failure. Not because their message isn't important, but because the people that follow them tend to listen to sound bites and not study the stuff. I'm not being mean, but explain to me why any other reason than that makes sense, right? Why is it that if you look at the conservative channels that put up conservative content, every other channel, right, combined doesn't equal the ones that are successful on the right? Because it's an idea. It's not that it's being successful. It's not that people are watching, but it's an idea. And the people that are running the stations, look, no one's making this up. When I'm done, go ahead and Google what percentage of people who work in journalism identify as conservatives. The last time that I saw the number, it was 7%, right? 7%. So 93% of all of the people in news don't want him in the office. That kind of gets out of control. And it has. And they have very successfully divided us into 2 parties. And because it went down that way, then the Fox people start doing the same stuff. They call them commies, they call them Nazis, and all of the stuff goes this way. And now I know people that said, I walked into the house and I saw Sean Hannity on the TV and I turned around and walked out. True story. Right? That's where we've let them do that to us. We were never those people. We're going to show this world a thing or two. Great reference. Because of threats of crushing deals by the chair of no, stop it. Listen, I know who Brendan Carr is. Brendan Carr has a job to do. And what Brendan Carr, no, this is Debbie Zito. I love you, honey. So explain to me. So you're saying that you keep a guy on who has 1/80th of half the market share because the right ain't watching him. They hate him. So the target audience of people who allegedly like you is about 80 million people, and you're getting 1/80th of that to watch you. His numbers were abysmal. ABC, all the ABC had to do was go, we're going to suspend him for 3 days and bring him back. If he had been Johnny Carson, they would have. Carson got suspended constantly. Remember the cat issue? This woman said, would you like to pet my, he said, yeah, grab that cat and get it off your lap. He made a sexist remark and got pulled off of it. So Brendan Carr runs the Federal Communication Commission. And allegedly, he said, we're going to handle this the easy way or the hard way. The other option is you go, let him go on and say that. We have a country where people are firing guns at each other because they don't agree with what someone says. And this asshole goes out and says, you know who did this? His own fans. No, MAGA people don't date women with penises. The shooter had a trans girlfriend, right? That's not MAGA. This dude was radicalized in chat rooms that were predominantly leaning toward this. In fact, they called them trans chat rooms. I won't be a fag, I'll just say it. They called them trans chat rooms. In fact, they're investigating tons of them, right? So the head of the FCC has a job, and his job is to make sure that exactly what happened doesn't happen. The Federal Communication Commission granted the license to the American Broadcasting Corporation to stay in business. So it's not the president going, you got to get rid of him. The the FCC's job is to stop that. That's why there is an FCC, because without that, propaganda goes wild. People can go on, and especially in today's day and age, you come out and you go, this afternoon, President Trump was caught having sex with a collie in the Oval Office, right? You can say whatever you want. The Federal Communication Commission can stop you from saying that, especially if you're in the big three, ABC, NBC, and CBS, because all three of those have charters to be communication companies from the government, and that means our tax dollars are in there. The reason that this guy got fired is because the American people spoke. They called their cable companies and said, I don't want that guy on tomorrow night. How many times do you think ABC has to hear that? When they're two of their biggest, right? ABC is just a broadcast company. They got to go to Comcast to go out to all those homes. Here, what's the name of the place we got? What's the name of our service? LifeNet. So here in Ecuador, it's LifeNet. But you have a service provider that has a deal with ABC, NBC, CBS, all of these, right? So the people who are pushing that out into the homes, who are the people that are paying ABC, called up and said, we're not showing Kimmel tomorrow night. ABC didn't have a choice, and it didn't come from, now, the head of the FCC was pissed, but he didn't make all those phone calls. Americans did, because Jimmy Kimmel is a disgusting piece of shit, and he has been since he did The Man Show. And if you're a woman, God, I wish you could find maybe 1 or 2 episodes of The Man Show so you could see who Jimmy Kimmel really is. It was a foul show, man, and I'm a pretty liberal cat when it comes to funny stuff, right? I like a laugh as much as the next guy. Like I said, when they advertised it, they said there'll be a lot of beer drinking and chicks jumping on trampolines. And I thought, that works for me. But watching him walk up behind, unsuspecting women, acting as if he was sniffing their butts, literally inches away, I'm like, this isn't funny, man. That's offensive as hell. If that was my sister, I'd stomp him out like a brush fire. And if it was my wife, he'd be in real trouble. He's just not a good person. Obama and Biden got rid of the Smith-Mundt Act, making it illegal for the CIA and the government to use propaganda on U.S. people. That is an absolute fact. That is an absolute fact. I talked about it on the show and said, why would you get rid of, right? Making it illegal for the CIA and the government to use propaganda on the U.S. people. Here's the problem. It was actually a great idea to do propaganda on the U.S. people. Do you remember? You know what the first real big propaganda push was? Schoolhouse Rock. I'm not kidding you. That was part of the program. They wanted to get slick and figure out a way to make the people in this country love their country and understand civics, which is why when people talk about stuff, right? We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, to establish justice, to ensure domestic tranquility, to provide for the common defense, to promote the general welfare, and to secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity, right? we ordain and establish this Constitution for these United States of America. If you didn't learn the preamble of the Constitution, you couldn't get into 7th grade. Now, if you said, what is the preamble? People look at you and go, who do you play for? We have dumbed down our society by not doing things like the Pledge of Allegiance. I mean, was that really that offensive? We had to have people go, they said God. They said God. Get a grip. You know how many Scientologists I've heard say, oh my God, God damn. Like Scientologists use that word more than anybody I have ever met in my life. We really have lost our way, man. The guy who did Schoolhouse Rock made my favorite Christmas record with Miles Davis. Nice. You know, there was a lot of talent on that. You know who was a big fan of that, believe it or not? Frank Zappa.
Oh, big time.
Frank Zappa was a huge fan of Schoolhouse Rock. He used to talk about it all.
Huge.
Love Frank Zappa.
Civics, big civics.
Big civics. You know what? It's the truth.
I'm waiting for a heavy metal band to do a Schoolhouse Rock album.
I think it's been done, hasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, heaps of people got too into the Tom. Yeah, those pesky Scientologists. Can't live with them. Can't live without them. Blue Christmas. All right, people. Look, you know, I know that sometimes I get heated, and look, I love all of you. I really do. I do. Truth is not subjective. Truth is not subjective. We can argue about whether raising taxes or cutting taxes grows a government better, right? And we can do that until the end of time. Or you can say, there was a study that they did at Berkeley, right? And you can actually talk about things like, what was the highest we ever taxed the American people? And what percentage of the gross domestic product actually came back to the government? And what is the smallest amount we have ever taxed the people? And what did that do for what percentage of the GDP actually came into the government? And the crazy thing is, they're almost identical. So the question becomes, would you rather have them having all your money? Or would you rather have us having all your money? Because the tax amount is going to be the same. And you go, how does that happen? Because when you raise the taxes as high as you possibly can, people stop investing. If you got $5 million in the bank, you don't invest it in anything because you're going to be giving up 75% of it to the government. And I'm not making that up. At one point, it was 75%, right? So it's not a question of which one works better. It doesn't. It's not a question of that at all. The amount of money that's going to end up in the coffers doesn't change much. The question is, how much of it's going to end up in your pocket, right? Because the people at the top, when you cut taxes, they invest. What does investment mean? It means they build businesses. It means they create jobs. And as simple as this, right? Trickle down economics. People used to go, that doesn't happen. Picture this. I sell cars for a living, right? I sell cars for a living. And the Republicans come into office. When they do, usually even before they get there, the stock market starts to rise because people tend to think that the taxes are going to drop, right? So a guy comes into my car dealership where I work as a salesman. And he goes, I think I want to buy a Bentley. It's going to be one of those years. And I make 30 grand in commission. And I call my girl and I go, hey, babe, call the babysitter. We're going out. And I go out and we eat at dinner and I drop a $200 tip. And on the way home, we stop and look at a ring for her at a jewelry store, right? This is a stimulating economy. Now, goes the other direction. People on Wall Street get panicky. Banks get panicky. They go, they're going to raise taxes. Nobody wants to lend any cash. Everybody starts getting weird. And now the guy comes into my shop and I go, hey, you had your eye on that Bentley? Yeah, probably not this year. Let's get that Corvette used, right? Whatever. Put a car in there. So instead of coming home with a $30,000 commission, I come home with a $2,000 commission. I don't go out to eat. I don't tip anybody $200. My babysitter doesn't get a $40 tip. This ain't rocket science. You can argue with me about right or left or whatever, but the numbers come back. I was a dope fiend. I lived in a box with 128 guys. I understand free market economy. If a guy's in there and he's the only guy selling dope, he can charge whatever he wants for it. But 2 more dope dealers hit there and we can just sit back and watch them fight to see how low the prices start getting before people start buying. It's pretty simple. It works the same way as you get bigger. These are all concepts that are very easy to understand. But the problem is people don't want to understand. They're not going to read a book. They're not going to even take the time to watch something. They'll just go catch a soundbite. And they're going to trust Don Lemon or they're going to trust Sean Hannity to tell them what they need to know in 45 seconds. Well, I got news for you. They're not going to tell you the truth. They're not. They answer to their boss, right? Who answers to their boss. But it's about selling advertising for toilet paper and cars and airplanes, right? Delta. proud sponsor of. It's not about telling the news anymore, man. It isn't. So which one works better, folks, right? Raising taxes, not raising, doesn't make a shit bit of difference for the government. It's what it's going to do for you. And guess who did that study? Berkeley. They're known to lean really right? Well, who knows anymore? I don't know what the right and the left is, right? Because I promise you that if I took tomorrow and I just grabbed John F. Kennedy's platform and read it to you, took his name off it and said, who is this? There's a decent chance you might have said Trump. But if not, you'd have said Reagan. The difference between a Democrat and a Republican from back then to today, the polls have begun to shift. The difference is that on the issues that the conservatives believed that are near and dear, the things that make people call us, what did that woman call us today? Christian what? Christian nationalists. I don't even know what the hell that is, to be honest with you. I don't want church and state. I don't want church anywhere near state. You know why? Because they'd F it up beyond belief. I also don't think churches should be tax-free, not even mine. I think churches should have to pay taxes like everybody else. It just should be the way it is. But we can be generous. We're $37 trillion in debt. So for those who got here late, right? All of that scandal about Trump and Russia was about Hillary Clinton. All of that was just to hide the fact that she was selling the White House. And if you wanted to see the Secretary of State, you had to donate to the Clinton Global Initiative. And 84 out of 100 and I can't remember the exact, I'll get it to you tomorrow. But the percentage, it was like 60 to 70% that everybody that got into her office either hired her husband for $10 million to speak or donated a massive amount of money to the Clinton Global Initiative. She also came out and made speeches about, hey, we're fixing this thing with the banking system. We wanted 52,000 people's banking information from Switzerland. Switzerland doesn't like giving that stuff up, right? Hillary Clinton stepped in and negotiated the deal and got it down to 4,000. What the hell is she doing there? Why would the Secretary of State be negotiating with a bank on behalf of a country or its citizens? Because she hid a lot of money there. That's why. Because she had a buttload of money hidden there. I think 99% of Americans, I agree with you. Debbie Zito nailed it. I think 95% of Americans want the same thing. Safe streets, good education, health, pay the bills, and get ahead. The difference in the ideology of how we go about it, but they all want us opposed. Yeah, they do. They want us hating each other. And I said this the other night. If a drive-by shooting happens and the mother loses a child, do you think it makes a crap bit of difference if she's white or black or what part of the city she's from? The gnashing of teeth will be the same, right? Or you see a girl for the first time that just absolutely changes your life. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter where you're from. The things that make us the same, 95% of us are exactly the same in almost every way. But we spend almost our entire lives trying to concentrate on the things that make us different. And if we can stop doing that, then, I mean, I don't know about the debt spiral, but maybe we can at least save families and friendships. I'm going to get emails calling me a Nazi because of the things that I said today.
Put it in my chat.
And you know something? They're not smart enough to understand what a Nazi is. For real. And I'll tell you something. Keep using that word because it means nothing anymore. It doesn't. Everyone's a Nazi, right? Well, on the right. And everyone's a commie pinko faggot on the left. It's just insane. It's the lunatic fringe. None of us are there. We're in the middle. We're in the middle. Let's not pretend, right? We're in the middle. We could disagree about all kinds of stuff. But when we start disagreeing about whether or not people have the right to live based on the things that they say, yeah. And I'm going to hear, Charlie Kirk said that these people aren't. No, he didn't. I promise you. You listen to some soundbite of Anna Gasparian or somebody else telling you what he said. Because the first person that's already reached out to say, he said this, this, and this. When we said, all right, send it on over. Shouldn't be that hard, right? You can even ask AI. Doesn't happen. Between now and the next time I see it, do me a favor. Put a little love in your heart. And I promise that tomorrow I'm going to do less to offend people. I can't back that up. I can't back that up. I'm going to try, though. I hope I'm not offending any of you. I love you guys. I really do. But here's the thing. There are things that are not subjective. There are. And sadly, I probably read too many books on them. I'd love to debate anybody. I'd love for you to come on. If you disagree with me, we can love each other when it's over. I promise you we can. I'll probably love you more. but come on and articulate the points. All right, tell me where you're getting it from. I would love it. Hey, loving failure. It's an honor to have you here. You know what? You did get here right as I'm ending, but that's not a bad thing because we kind of end as a tradition around here with this here. Oh, don't you do it, you little snot. She is not a pro. I'm going to have to go. Hold on. I'm going to the backup. Come here. Old
Backup kitty cat.
Old Faithful. See that? Old Faithful. You know Squirrel.
No, we've never had both cats.
One video. Look.
This is a cat, and that is a basket. They love each other. They really do. They're pretty cute cats. All right, people. Normally I do a cat in a basket. Sadly, Squirrel Nut Zipper's on strike because she thinks that her, well, I don't want to get into it because we're still in negotiations. Don't bite the computer. But SNZ, that's right. Squirrel Nut Zipper. You know what? The one thing we can all have in common, nobody doesn't think cats are awesome, right? And if you do, keep it to yourself. Every other kind of free speech is okay. You're not allowed to talk bad about cats. Well, you can, but then you got to deal with the repercussions. And that might get you slapped. Between now and the next time I see you, put a little love in your heart. And you know what? If you got a point that you really believe hard in, get out your journal and write down why you believe it. Articulate your point. If your belief is this person did this, and this, write down where you got that info from. And maybe you might find out it's not real. Like I remember reading just recently that they wanted to bring the Epstein files to Congress, right? And everybody, 95 people, they said 95 people voted against this. That never happened. They put a footnote on a bill that was about cryptocurrency and whether or not it was going to be regulated in a similar fashion as some of the other commodities that we have in the U.S. That's what the bill was. Then you put Epstein's thing down at the bottom because now anybody that votes against crypto, you can come out and go, Johnny Scoville voted to not let Epstein files come out on. Come on, man. A little bit of research will go a really long way. I promise. You don't even have to get really into it. We will see you on the next one. I love you, people. Believe it or not, I really do. I'm Tommy. God bless.